So just to sort of characterize what we've seen, the filmmaker who is not here, Paolo from Poland. Sorry, I don't know if you recognize some of the style. Number one, that was one continuous take in that film, pure Baroque. There we go. Look how creative, look how resourceful we are. And I think there are really shades of Fellini in that film. Now, he is at, I believe it's University of Warsaw. He came to his college education later, so you might sense a degree of sophistication in that film. Deciding to go with one take, also doing film within a film. It's a very fluid sense of, as our program says, how do you reconcile what you think happened yesterday with what's supposed to happen today and even possibly tomorrow. So that's just a quick, my take on pure Baroque, which I thought was really quite kind of cool to look at. For all the folks here, if I'm going to pass this mic down, we'll start with Moody on that. If you could just let the audience know what school you were engaged in or still in when you shot this film. So let me start with you, Moody.
Hello, I'm Moody Ateka. I go to Swarthmore College in Pennsylvania, and I'm a sophomore, and I shot this film near the end of the second semester, so around April.
Hi everyone, I'm Jennifer Hill. I am at John Jay College of Criminal Justice in their master's program in New York City.
Hi, I'm Callahan Mainzer. I go to Skidmore College, upstate New York. I'm going to be a sophomore this year.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Alejandra y vivo en el estado de Vermont, en Bridgeport.
Hello, my name is John. I'll be interpreting for Alejandra. Alejandra lives in Vermont, in Bridgeport, and
You can hold that. I believe that the two filmmakers were Middlebury graduates now. I think they made Luke Robbins. I think they were Middlebury graduates. So we have a nice representation of filmmakers here. I think the next question I would like to ask for all of our filmmakers, this is your standard question, but it can get at the heart of things. What's the inspiration for making this film? What did you get out of the film that might be different than perhaps what you started with? And with respect to Alejandra, what I'd like to know from her is, what was the filmmaking experience like being followed around by a camera? There's some very deep issues in that film about loneliness for the farm working community, for the migrant community here. She finds joy in providing food, but it wasn't always that way because, again, the men are often separated from the women by virtue of their work roles. Let's start with Moody again. Just this, by the way, your mom is here. We want to acknowledge her. Thank you for coming. But this is all about your grandmother, and my sense is you thought your grandmother really was lonely, but it turns out she's perfectly fine. She reads the New York Times.
Yes.
And at some point she tells you, that's good, that's enough, take the camera away, I'm good. Yeah. So you started with the idea that you wanted to document her loneliness, but she turned the tables on you?
Yes, so basically at the start, the script was about loneliness and just being bored and at that old age. And since I was at Swarthmore at the time, I had to travel up to New York on the weekends to go see her, and 2 weekends passed, and then I filmed some stuff, and it just wasn't giving that loneliness feeling. And my professor told me, hey, how about it seems like something more happy-ish. And then I decided to go that next weekend, and then I was like, you know what, maybe we should have some fun with this, and then act like you're annoyed at me filming you and stuff. So we can film this collage of bloopers and stuff, and then just form that into a project.
So it morphed on you?
Yes.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
And how was that handling that? Did you feel like, okay, I'm still going to be able to make this film, and it'll still sort of satisfy my goals, or the film changed so much from the beginning to the end that you sort of thought to yourself, this is crazy. This is just crazy.
I think during the filming of the start of the project, and I first wanted to do it about loneliness, I felt like I was making no progress anywhere because it was just kind of difficult to capture that. And then I think near the end, like after I spoke to my professor and like went to New York for the last weekend, I had more confidence. I was like, you know what, I got this, because like I think it'll just be a better representation of my grandma and like maybe more old people than you think. Like, so yeah.
Okay, I found the film very spirited because she basically defies what you thought your film was going to be. You know, so that we get a very clear picture of her pushing, not to say pushing back, but pushing through what perhaps the idea of loneliness will be. She's clearly not, and I wish you'd gotten more dancing scenes with her. She'd be ready to go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. This is a good example of perhaps having a predisposition about a film, what it's going to be about, and then the very nature of the person confounds you. You have to adapt in real time. Well, let's go to Jennifer. Sarah, thank you for coming. We appreciate that, Sarah George. Please feel free. Your film, it's about 23 minutes. It does a very good job of tracing. This is a good story that needed to be told. I am wondering whether Ted Kennedy, the vanquished candidate, was someone who would not have added to the film because he wasn't a particularly helpful subject, or was your idea to create a portrait of Sarah which sort of befit the challenges she was facing? This is going for a full election now. I guess my question is, was there any thought that perhaps Ted Kennedy, right, would provide some counterpoint that would be helpful to your film, or was Sarah from the beginning sort of the primary? She was her path was the primary destination. That's what you wanted to get.
Yeah, I would say from the beginning, Sarah was the primary subject. That's who we were focused on, and we came up with the idea to make this film because I was so curious about who was challenging Sarah in this race, just because I'm such a fan of the work she does, and so are most of the community members, as demonstrated in the film by her overwhelming win. And so to hear that rhetoric that was coming from Ted really spiked curiosity. But as we were filming more, and mind you, we only had 3 months to do all of this filming, so we didn't have our own time crunch as was. And we really wanted to focus on Sarah's work and Sarah's mission, and just the importance of the role of a prosecutor, because it is, as mentioned in the film, such a forgotten position, an elected position at that.
Okay, I think that's two things that are important in what you just said. One, time constraints. So when you see student films, they do not have the luxury of saying, oh, I'm just going to plan this for 6 months, a year, I'm going to raise some money, I'm really going to get behind my, no. They're basically, a shoot is very constrained. There's often no money, and because you're under the auspices of a university or a college. And I find it remarkable that some of the films we see here are very, very ambitious, how they get this done under very tight time constraints. So you must have felt that a little bit. 3 months, and then you used the election as the culmination of the film.
Yes, for the ending.
The other thing, just curious, how, you did not know Sarah prior to?
I actually worked in the same courthouse as Sarah, so I was familiar with Sarah, but now we're much better friends because we spent the whole summer
That's great. That's a great outcome.
Yeah.
However, there is the whole trust issue. So first approaching her, you didn't know her, but you wanted to do a film about her. She's also busy.
Mm-hmm.
How did that work out?
I think that is that's a very common question we get, and it also speaks to one of Sarah's strong suits as an elected official. She is so open to anyone and all communication. So if you send her any email, she's going to reply to it. And she also really values being an elected official. She feels an obligation that people are entitled to know her and her work, and to be really open and honest about that work and why she's doing it the way she's doing it and where it's coming from. So I think that was definitely just luck of Sarah's personality, being willing to share that with us.
Well, that benefits her constituents, but it also benefits the filmmaker, because you're not struggling to try and pull stuff out. It's there for you.
No, one of the best and easiest parts about making the film was how Sarah just invited us into her home, into her campaign parties, on hikes, out to dinners. I mean, she just was pretty much like, yep, you can come with me anywhere you want to. And it was great. So.
Very, very good. Let's go to Callahan. Okay, your film is really ambitious. So I like that this has clear sort of experimental, like initiative. It's like if a film, you're taking on experimental style, which can be a bear. You use a lot of images in the film. So can you give us a sense of inspiration on this? Because you're a student, you said you were 20?
I'm 19 right now.
19, okay. I just want to point out, this is very ambitious, 19-year-old filmmaker doing a film with this much imagery. Who are your inspirations for this? Or did this spring from your head?
Yeah, I mean, most of it just came from my head. I think the story kind of I wanted to tell was very personal in that, like, I kind of wanted to demonstrate, like, various sources of anxieties or hardships in the person's life, and then how they were able to overcome that and deal with it. And I think going into it, like, use of color was a big thing for me. Like, I wanted to show that transition from the beginning to the end of the film about using color. And then as far as images go, I really just, a lot of those places were very personal to me. Like the church that we were in was where I went to middle school. That the hill that I was filming on that had a beautiful view of the city was just a hill that me and my friends like to go up to back home. So it's just, it was very personal, and it kind of developed in a similar way that, like, I had this initial idea that I really had no idea how I was gonna do it, but as I kept going, and my dad really helped push those creative ideas too, which I'm really grateful for him for. But yeah, just really developed on its own.
Mm-hmm. It's very non-linear, right? And as I watched, it's the second time I've seen the film. This is when it first came in, I watched the film. Give us some idea of where the title here seems to me to have importance in terms of Hold Me Close. Is this your story? You're talking about someone who has anxieties, struggling to some degree. Where is the title coming from?
Yeah, so the title came from just kind of, I mean, the little trinket that the character gets, like the orb.
Yes.
It can mean, it means something to me. Like, I have an idea in my mind for it, but what I have found is that it means something different to everybody who watches it, which makes me feel really great, and that kind of shows how personal it is, not just for me, but for anyone who can see it. And I think just what it really meant to me was finding the color within yourself and holding that close, and not, he was searching for external kind of fixes to his colorless black and white world, whereas what the orb really told him to do or guided him to do was to look within and kind of back at his childhood or whatever it might have been. So yeah, that title kind of, as with everything, just kind of developed throughout, but it means like holding yourself close and holding the things that won't, or that will be able to fill that void, which is just you close.
Thank you. It's a good answer, and also I want to applaud you for bringing a lot into this film. It's 7-minute runtime? Okay, because you've got animation in here, you have a version of special effects, you are transitioning from black and white to color, and you've got home movies, which are adorable, by the way, with you playing the guitar. So there's a lot here you've drawn on, so I applaud you for being able to harness that. It isn't easy. Okay, Alejandra, my question, it's a beautiful film, and you're lovely in this film, but you raise some issues about loneliness, also about sexual roles here. I'm just curious, how was it for you to be in this film when the filmmakers approached you? Was this easy for you to say yes, or were you reluctant in the beginning?
Ah, Buenas tardes, gracias por estar acá. Y yo quise contar un poco la historia de los inmigrantes que se encuentran en Vermont y todos los trabajadores agrícolas, especialmente los farmers. Existen más de 500 ranchos con más de 1,000 y 1,500 trabajadores agrícolas.
Yes, she was talking about the experience of migrants in Vermont and how there's a huge number of migrants in the state. Yes.
También es importante recalcar que quise contar la historia porque es bien difícil encontrar trabajo para las mujeres.
Yes, she felt that this is a very important story to tell because it's very hard to find work in the state as females, especially in agriculture.
No tuve otra opción más que cocinar y me di cuenta que podía ganar dinero, cuidar mis hijos y trabajar.
And her taco business came out of a desire to find more ways to make money and to be able to take care of her family within Vermont.
That's very, very strong. Did you feel the filmmakers, did you have a sense of trust about the filmmakers, that they were getting to the issues that you wanted to talk about?
¿Tuviste confianza en los temas de la película y la confianza con los cineastas en la manera en que ellos expresaron estos temas?
Sí, claro que sí, porque eran personas que yo ya conocía, eran estudiantes que tenía como 2 años de conocerlos y hablaban español e inglés.
Yes, she already had to build trust because she knew the documentary filmmakers for many years, and they were able to speak both Spanish and English to her, so she felt like she had trust for them to tackle those themes.
And how is your father? How is Papi?
¿Cómo es tu papá?
Mi papá es el ser más hermoso que yo conozco y tengo 17 años sin verlo.
Her father's doing great and is the love of her life.
Who has questions for any of our filmmakers? Yes, go ahead.
I have 2. They're both short. One's for you, Lloyd. So I'm just going to, I'll say both of them. A few years ago, the closing night film was Crisis Cops, Ernie and Joe.
Yes.
And the Attorney General for Vermont was on stage.
T.J. Jonathan, yeah.
Is he the person that you replaced? Yes. Okay, thanks. I wondered if any of the films are available on Vimeo or YouTube, or what kinds of plans you have.
Have any of these films been posted on video and are accessible?
Yeah, mine's on YouTube.
On YouTube, okay,
Probably soon, but not yet, we're still doing better.
okay.
Mine is on Vimeo.
Vimeo. Okay, I don't know what's going on with Safari anymore, I'm not sure which platform. Vimeo is often, you're going to find many, many films on Vimeo if you wish to have a subscription. A lot of students park their films there. It's not exactly the same as distribution, it's aggregation, not distribution. With respect to Ernie and Joe, Crisis Cops, you might want to ask Sarah if you've seen this film.
Oh, it's on HBO, and it's amazing. And your predecessor, right? He was almost speechless afterwards, and just from seeing it, he said he changed his attitude about where resources should go in law enforcement in Vermont, about, the film is about teaching cops how to do crisis intervention that does not involve showing up with guns, basically.
Yeah, it's a very influential film. And so the filmmaker had an impact campaign with that film that went on for not months, but years, largely involving engaging members of Congress, and also because it was shot in these are San Antonio PD. And Ernie and Joe were really good subjects because they they had affinity for trying this approach as opposed to being so resistant to it, it'll never work. But they thought it would. And so the filmmaker, with their cooperation, was able to take the film around the country and I think had a lot of success with her impact campaign. Anybody else, questions? Yes?
Alejandra, I loved your film. And has your sister and your poppy been able to see the film?
¿Has visto tu película, tu papá y tu hermana?
Sí.
Yes. Yes.
Pero yo tengo mi papá 17 años en la 70 years que no lo veo.
Oh, yes, she hasn't seen her father in 17 years.
Oh.
Will that change?
Vas a cambiar.
Sí.
Yes.
It will change, she'll be able to see him.
¿Sabes cuándo vas a ver tu papá? No.
So, who else has questions? Anybody else? Well, thank you for coming out. And yes, I think they all deserve